I need your forgiveness for being who I am. Goodbye. The day after giving birth, what I found at my bedside was a suicide note from my husband. The shock was too much for me, just having given birth, and my mind went blank. Later, my husband's shoes were found at the top of a cliff. After that, all I could do was focus on living and taking care of my daughter, and 5 years had passed. Now, I find solace in the growing smile of my daughter, but something astonishing happened when I attended a friend's wedding. Unbelievably, standing next to the bride was my husband. Dressed in a tuxedo, he was standing there with the same smile as before. Why is he here when he was supposed to have thrown himself into the sea? From there, I came to learn an unexpected truth, and as a result, his life took a downward spiral. 5 years ago, at 35, I was working as a nail technician, with a regular clientele. I dreamt of owning my own salon one day, and was working hard, saving money towards that dream. Worried about me being so focused on work and not having a boyfriend, my best friend Penelope suggested I join a mixer. Emilia, you know, it's great you're into your work and all, but haven't you given up on marriage and kids? If not, you need to start looking for someone. Persuaded by her words, a bond since high school, I decided to give it a try. And from here, my life took a significant turn. At the mixer, I unexpectedly met someone special. We clicked as if we had known each other forever, and started dating immediately. His name was Ethan Parker, a 38-year-old office worker. Both in our late 30s, we were dating with marriage in mind, and within 6 months, I was pregnant. Ethan, I'm pregnant. Really? Well. The moment I told him, I thought I saw a flicker of shock on his face, but he quickly smiled and hugged me. We decided to get married after settling down post-birth, planning to live together and register our marriage in the meantime. However, during the move, I became severely nauseous and couldn't get out of bed for days. We should register our marriage soon. Just sign the marriage certificate, and I'll submit it to the city hall. I wish we could go together. I'm sorry. Don't worry about it. Rest up for the baby. I was always enveloped in his kindness. But there was one thing that worried me. It was about my parents. Living in the countryside, my parents used to urge me to get married every time we met. Fed up, I had stopped contacting them for a while, but announcing a shotgun wedding would likely upset them. As expected, when I reached out, my father angrily shouted, "Don't come back home." It's shameful. I had anticipated their reaction, but still, it depressed me, making the nausea worse, and every day a struggle. Gradually, I took more time off work, spending most days in bed, unable to do household chores, and barely managing to eat the bare minimum. I'm sorry, I couldn't do any household chores today again. Damn, again. As days like these continued, Ethan, who was once kind, started to change. In what was supposed to be the bliss of newlywed life, about to welcome a baby, I was filled with panic instead of living the life I had imagined. I might not become a good wife or mother at this rate. Crying in bed every day, battling nausea, felt truly like hell. And then, things started to get even worse. Ethan began coming home later, spending less time at home. Even more, when rent was due, there was no payment from Ethan. We had agreed to split the rent when we started living together, and it was being deducted from my account, but I realized he had not transferred any money at all. Hey, did you forget to transfer the money for the rent? What's going on? Just wait a bit longer. I had a lot of drinking expenses this month. Every time I checked, he'd postpone payment, and eventually, I was almost paying the full rent myself. Moreover, as payday approached, he started asking to borrow money more frequently. But I can't work right now, and considering the future, I wanted to save our savings. Because of the nausea, I was almost on leave from work, and reluctantly started dipping into my savings for opening a nail salon. But I wanted to save as much as possible. There were sudden business dinners at fancy places, and I'm short this month. But shouldn't that be covered by business expenses? It doesn't work like that. Plus, if I can secure this contract, it could mean a lot for my promotion. Please. Being told it was for the future of our family, making it easier to provide, I couldn't help but agree. But then, I noticed a watch on Ethan's wrist that I'd never seen before. Hey, where did you get that watch? You noticed? Cool, right? I've been eyeing this watch for a while. He showed it off like a child bragging about a treasure. No, I mean, how much did that cost? What's it to you? I bought it with my own money. Stop nagging. Despite me paying all the rent and even lending him money, what was he thinking? I couldn't help but shout back. Discuss these things before spending money on them. You're going to be a father. Perhaps surprised by my unusual assertiveness, Ethan appeared shocked and then sheepishly apologized. Sorry, I'll ask you first next time, okay? Seeing him apologize made me wonder if things would be okay once the baby arrived, but it left me with a vague sense of unease. Ethan's returns home became even less frequent afterward. As my pregnancy entered the later stages, an unexpected situation arose during a prenatal checkup. What? Are you going to be hospitalized from now? At the checkup, they said it's preterm labor. There were still about 2 months left until the due date, but the doctor said it'd be best to be hospitalized to keep the baby inside as long as possible. Shocked by the sudden news, I resolved to do my best for the baby's sake, preparing myself for a long hospital stay. While I looked forward to the arrival of our unborn child from my hospital bed, the days of doing nothing but resting were dreadfully boring. During this time, my salvation came from frequent visits by my best friend Penelope, who worked at a private investigation agency specializing in infidelity cases. She entertained me with work stories within appropriate limits, always managing to make me laugh. Even if someone cheats, they're bound to get caught eventually. That's true. When I fell silent, Penelope looked at me closely. Don't tell me Ethan is cheating. It's not like that, but I ended up spilling all the doubts and incidents that had been bothering me. Him being away from home so often is suspicious. Penelope's grave comment made me realize, maybe I was right. Despite my suspicions, I had been looking the other way. Just to make sure, have you confirmed if the marriage certificate was actually submitted? What? I haven't checked, but Penelope's unexpected question took me by surprise. I had never had such a serious doubt before. Sometimes there are men like that. I don't know if Ethan is one of them, but it's better to check. I was torn between feeling like I shouldn't doubt my husband to that extent and wanting to clear up the lingering unease. Then Penelope suddenly stood up. I can check as your proxy, so I'll go to the city hall right now and find out. It's better to clear things up, right? After making me write the necessary documents for a proxy application, she quickly grabbed her bag and left the hospital room. It's okay, the marriage certificate must have been filed. Just confirming that will ease my mind. While I reassured myself and waited, Penelope returned in less than an hour. Here. What she handed me was my family register, and there was no record of my marriage to Ethan. That can't be. Maybe you should ask him yourself. So, I decided to ask him when he visited the hospital room the next day. When he arrived, he had his usual cheerful smile. Despite my turmoil, I knew I had to clear things up for the sake of our child, so I broached the subject. Hey, you did submit our marriage certificate, right? Huh. His face changed immediately, and he fell silent, as if pondering something. Then, after a while, he spoke. Well, I wanted to submit it together with you, so I decided against submitting it after all. He had gone to the city hall intending to file it, but then thought better of it, hoping my health would improve soon. Then you should have told me that at the time. That's true, but then a lot of things happened. Apparently, he got entangled in some financial trouble, which also made it impossible for him to make the rent payments. I'm about to become a father, and I felt so pathetic. I wanted to sort this out before I talked to you about it. He spoke with such a dejected expression, I found myself unable to say anything. I'm sorry for making you feel anxious, especially now that we're having a baby. At that moment, I could only begin to cry and pat his back. He must have been suffering in silence. As his wife, I need to support him. Afterward, Ethan rarely visited me in the hospital, and he stopped replying to my messages. I thought maybe he was too embarrassed to face me, so I decided to wait without pressing him too much. Despite everything, my pregnancy continued to progress, and the day of the birth finally arrived. Labor started in the middle of the night, and by morning, our daughter was born, weighing just over 7 pounds, a healthy baby. Ethan did come after I contacted him, but he seemed distant, avoiding eye contact. It bothered me, but after enduring a tumultuous night and intense pain, the joy of seeing my baby blew away all other concerns. Holding my tiny, helpless child, I was overwhelmed with indescribable emotions. I'm so happy you were born safely." Ethan, holding his daughter, had a complex expression on his face. The next day, what I found by my pillow was a suicide note from Ethan. "Dear Amelia, this letter might come as a surprise, but these are my true feelings." The letter detailed his anguish. He hadn't been straightforward with me, but it turned out he had been a victim of fraud, losing all our savings and being chased by debt collectors. Considering our upcoming child and family, he felt this was his only option. "I believe I'll only be a burden as long as I live. That's why I'm planning to jump off a cliff known for suicides. Please forgive me, goodbye." Those final words were shocking, leaving me, already unstable after childbirth, completely stunned. Rushing to the police, Ethan's shoes were found at a famous cliff, presumed to have jumped into the sea, and I broke down in tears. Even after a search, his body was never found. I filed a missing person report, holding on to the slim hope that he would return. However, 5 years had passed while I was still holding on to a sliver of hope. During that time, I had no choice but to live on, holding our newborn daughter. Fortunately, after I informed my parents about the birth, they came to see us and we reconciled. Since then, they've been a great help in many ways. Thanks to my parents doting on my daughter, their first granddaughter, I was able to make it as a single mother. Now, I'm balancing parenting and work, striving towards opening my dream salon. Penelope also came by often, taking my daughter and me out for shopping trips and fun outings, offering her support. During this time, I received an invitation from a high school friend, Avery Gibson. Back in high school, Avery, Penelope, and I were always together. Avery, being the daughter of a CEO of the major company called Gibson Group, moved to France after graduation due to her parents' work, so we lost touch. It was a surprise to find out she had returned to the United States and was sending out wedding invitations. Avery's getting married. I wonder what kind of person they are. Penelope contacted me excitedly, but I had no idea either. Maybe someone she met in France, or perhaps some corporate heir. We were both looking forward to reuniting with our friend. On the day of the wedding, the venue and decorations were so luxurious that they reaffirmed Avery's status as a CEO's daughter. Ethan used to work for a company under the Gibson Group. This memory crossed my mind briefly, but as the lights dimmed and music started to play, the spotlight hit the doors of the venue as they slowly opened. Seeing Avery after such a long time, she hadn't changed a bit, and her smile brightened up the surroundings like spring sunshine encourages flowers to bloom. But the moment I saw the groom next to her, my heart froze. Ethan. Standing next to Avery was the man who was supposed to have disappeared by jumping into the sea the day after our daughter was born. How is he here? And with Avery? I never imagined reuniting under these circumstances. Seeing him in a tuxedo, smiling just like before, I was utterly confused. Why is this happening? As I stood there, stunned as if seeing a ghost, Penelope spoke up. "Isn't that Ethan?" I was thinking the same. But that smile, especially the slight lift on the left side of his lip. It's definitely him. If even Penelope, who works at a detective agency, said so, then it had to be Ethan. What's going on? He was supposed to have jumped into the sea. Well, that suicide note could be a lie. Filled with a desire to confront him and find out the truth, I had been since he disappeared. But I didn't want to ruin a friend's wedding, so I restrained myself at that moment. So I quietly whispered to Penelope, buzzing with the urge to investigate. "I have a favor to ask." "What is it? You can tell me anything. I want to know what Ethan has been up to during these missing 5 years. Can you help?" With a sly grin and a thumbs up, she responded, "Of course. I was going to look into it even if you hadn't asked. I'm counting on you." From the next day, we started looking into Ethan's whereabouts. Penelope even took time off work to tail him. As we delved into what had happened, we stumbled upon a shocking truth. I can't believe Ethan was such a person. The revelation was a massive shock, and I felt like I was about to collapse. I know it's shocking, but now that we know everything, we can't let him get away with this, right? Of course not. There's no way we're leaving it at this. We decided to take action against Ethan. A few days later, we attended Avery's private wedding party, obtaining invitations through a certain method. Searching the crowded venue for Ethan, we found him at the center of a large gathering. "Amelia, there he is. What do we do? There are so many people around him." Well, then we have no choice but to confront him head-on. Wait, what do you mean by head-on? Ignoring Penelope's caution, I confidently walked towards Ethan, heels clicking with every step. As I came into Ethan's view, he froze, staring back in surprise. Approaching with a smile, Avery noticed me and said, "Amelia, thank you for coming today." "You're welcome, Ethan, it's been a while." As I smiled brightly at him, the smile on his face suddenly stiffened. "Ah, well, Ethan, why are you here? Weren't you supposed to have jumped off a cliff?" My loud, seemingly surprised question turned heads around us. Avery pressed him, "What's going on?" "Ethan, you know Amelia." "No, well, that's them." The sudden turn of events caused a murmur to spread through the crowd, and Ethan began to visibly panic. "Avery, it might be hard to believe, but I need to tell you. This man, Ethan, was supposed to be my husband 5 years ago." Avery, grasping Ethan by the chest, shook him vigorously, demanding, "What does that mean, Ethan?" I explained everything about the past 5 years to everyone around us, without hiding a thing. He had left a suicide note and disappeared by supposedly jumping off a cliff the day after I gave birth to our child 5 years ago. Ever since then, I had been living diligently. The buzz in the venue faded as everyone focused on my words. But that suicide note was a lie, right? I stood in front of him, pointing my finger. "You left me to marry Avery." Ethan, avoiding my gaze, turned pale. Questions like "Why would you do that?" started arising from the crowd. Avery glared at him. "While we were dating at the same time, and I got pregnant, you decided to run away because you didn't want to take responsibility. You really were aiming for a reverse Cinderella story by marrying Avery." Ethan, now pale-faced, desperately looked for a way to turn the situation around, but when Avery's father appeared, Ethan sat down, burying his head in his hands. I went on to expose his secrets. "Plus, it seems you have gambling debts from the time we were together, amounting to over $50,000, right?" Avery confronted him. "I didn't know about this," and Ethan started to panic. "I was going to tell you. I swear, I had a plan to pay it all back before telling you." Was that plan to marry Avery and become the next CEO? At my comment, Ethan fell silent, glaring at me sharply. "You were bragging about it when drunk at a bar 5 years ago. You were playing both of us, hoping to hit the jackpot by marrying into wealth, and you never intended to marry me." Penelope, the detective, had gathered these testimonies that I couldn't have collected on my own. I thrust the investigation report right under his nose. Then, defiantly, Ethan snatched the report from me and started tearing it up. "You. Doing this won't end well for you. It was a mistake to get involved with you. If only you hadn't gotten pregnant." He was furious because his plans ruined. He looked as if he was about to lash out. Truly despicable. "I'll be contacting a lawyer for divorce and child support, so be prepared. You can run, but you can't hide. You, damn it. It wasn't supposed to end up like this." So far, things were going well. As Ethan hit the floor with his fists, regretting his actions, Avery approached slowly. "That's my line. It was all true, just as Amelia said." She then declared divorce. "Wait, please. This is all her fabrication." Ethan was making excuses to Avery, but her decision was firm. Indeed, Penelope and I had already informed Avery of the truth beforehand. That's why she had gave us the invitation. As Avery stood beside Penelope and me, glaring coldly at Ethan, he begged, "Avery, think it over." Later, Ethan, in tears, apologized to her, but was sternly reprimanded by Avery's father and finally calmed down. Moreover, Ethan, who worked at Avery's father's company, got fired. "It's all Amelia's fault I can't become the next CEO now. Huh. This is all you're doing. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I'm also a CEO's daughter. Huh. You." Ethan stood there, dumbfounded by this sudden revelation. Actually, my father also ran his own company and had always planned to pass it on to me or my future husband. That's why he had always pressured me about marriage and was concerned about how it looked to others. I never had the chance to tell you because I got pregnant and became estranged from my parents. But well, it all worked out for the best in the end. So, if I had married you, I could have become a CEO. Ethan, incredibly, suddenly took my hand and knelt down. "Let's start over, even now. Our child needs her father, right? Ha. No way. I'd rather not have someone like you as a father. I don't ever want to see your face again. The change was so sudden that I burst out laughing. He was so shocked that he couldn't speak and lost his mind and became dazed. Leaving him like that, Avery, Penelope, and I left the venue. Afterwards, Avery and Ethan got divorced. Her father was furious and vowed to claim alimony by any means necessary. I also filed for alimony and child support through a lawyer. Ethan ended up with over $150,000 in debt, working day and night without rest, looking completely worn out. And now, Avery, Penelope, and I often get together for lunches and enjoy fun times. Moreover, at 40, I was able to fulfill my dream of owning my own nail salon. Recently, my 5-year-old daughter has shown an interest in nails, playing nail salon with me. In those moments, with my beloved daughter's continuous smiles, I feel the simple joy of existence, enveloped in a serene peace.